on the open road. Here's to the dreamers in the bars. Here's to the teachers in the crowded rooms. And here's to the workers in the fields. Here's to the preachers of the sacred word. Here's to the drivers at the wheel. Here's to you, my love, with blessings from above. Let the day begin. Here's to you, my love, with blessings from above. Let the day begin. Here's to the winners in the human race. Here's to the losers in the game. Here's to the soldiers of the bitter war. Here's to the wall that bears their names. Here's to you, my love, with blessings from above. Let the day begin. Here's to you, my love, with blessings from above. Let the day begin. Here's to the doctors in their healing work. Here's to the loved ones in their care. Here's to the strangers on the street tonight. Here's to the lonely everywhere. Here's to you, my love, with blessings from above. Let the day begin. Here's to you, my love, with blessings from above. Let the day begin. Here's to the wisdom from the mouths of babes. Here's to the lions in the cage. Here's to the struggles of the silent war. And here's to the closing of the age. Here's to you, my love, with blessings from above. Let the day begin. Here's to you, my love, with blessings from above. Let the day begin. Here's to you, my love, with blessings from above. Let the day begin. Here's to you, my love, with blessings from above. Let the day begin. Let the day start.
Thank you, Randy. I always enjoy so much when Randy starts us with that song. Please excuse the voice today. We've had a few challenges this last week, and we keep saying things like, my health is getting better and better all the time. And it helps, but it has been a bit of a challenge this week, so yeah. Which a lot of us here are extremely aware of because it's been happening in their houses too. But anyway, we have Randy with us this morning, which is always wonderful. And our speaker today is the absolutely wonderful Rev Georgie. And we are always so glad to have her with us. It's always a treat. And Terry's back from Hawaii. Did you enjoy it? Good. Good. Oh, yeah. How long since you've seen him? Oh, you're kidding. Oh, I would think so. He's 12 now? We've known him since he was about this size. He's a blind now. I can't imagine how he does one of those things. Well, at this time in time, I'm going to our practice table. And it's always so cute. Well, now, it is probably really many different schools I love it. It's strictly going to be a big day of the pipeline for all of us and all of us. Always going to be. Not just that I'm really comfortable with it, but thank you. But when you get that real still small boys with you instead of saying, oh, yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. And now I'm going to ask Georgie, Reverend Georgie, if she will please do our opening prayer.
Thank you, Judy. All right, friends, let's just take a moment and close our eyes. And I know we've all been doing whatever we've been doing to get here at this time in this place. And so just bring our attention inside to that indwelling Christ. As Judy said, that Spirit of the living God is always within us. And sweet Spirit, we say thank you. We thank you for that awareness. We thank you for the times that we listen to that voice of guidance. We ask that we be reminded more often, that we may listen more often and follow that guidance more often. And so for this morning, as we're gathered here together with hearts full of gratitude, we just say, thank you, Spirit, for this opportunity. Amen.
And now we're going to do the congregational song. And as you can see, we are going to have it up here. But we didn't know if we were going to be able to get this up here today or not because of our health challenges this last week. So the words are also in your bulletin.
I see trees of green, red roses too. I see 'em bloom for me and you, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see trees, skies of blue, and clouds of white, the bright blessed day, dark sacred night, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of the people going by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. I hear babies cry, I watch them grow and learn much more than I'll ever know. I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
Thank you, John, for getting it up here and getting it. Well, we're making progress. That's right. And that's right. Any progress we're glad to take, right? Okay. And this is the time when I mentioned to you about our prayer box. You'll find prayer requests on the back of the pews. You're welcome to fill them out. And today being the last day of the month, all of these will be collected and sent back to Silent Unity, where they are prayed over for an additional month. So, like I say, they're in the back of the pews. You can put them directly in the box, in the basket, in the corner, whatever. And tomorrow I'll make sure that they're in the mail and headed on their way. John, are you going to do announcements? Okay.
Hi, gang. Hi, John. Nice to see you all here today. I'm glad you didn't decide you needed to jump into the volcano.
I was on Kauai.
Oh, okay.
Big jump, huh?
Yeah. All right. Well, we got this thing partly going, or pretty well going. So I'll make progress. I didn't get down here at all last week to play with it, so it's healing itself. And whatever it takes. But we'll get there. It's going to work nice for us, I think. Next week, October 7th. October? Yeah, October.
Yeah, the year's 3/4 gone. That dawned on me this morning.
Yeah. Sandra Combs will be here with us. And music will be provided by Randy.
Oh, okay.
So we got that figured out this morning even.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, also next week, we have our ever-exciting board meeting. And that's something, that's a don't miss thing. Everybody will want to come for the board meeting. So that will be next Sunday too.
Which spelling do you use for that?
B-O-R-E-D.
B-O-R-E-D?
Yeah,
Or B-O-A-R-D?
well,
Whatever.
it's pretty calm, so
O-A-R-D, I use.
it's pretty relaxed atmosphere, so it's not too bad. All right, that's really all I got going on today.
And that's the board meeting where we present to the board what we will be presenting the next week, which the
No, that's
second...
not true. So you're a month ahead of yourself. Annual meeting's in November.
No, it isn't. It's in October.
Oh, it is?
It's the second Sunday in October.
Okay, now remember, the annual meeting is coming up, second Sunday in October. Don't want to miss that either. We do all sorts of interesting things at that, too.
We do?
Like she said,
Well, we get through it.
we get there. All right, that's all I got.
Thank you, John.
All right. Well, then, at this point, it's time for our monthly affirmation. So if you'll take the cards out and repeat it all with me, please, because this is the last time we do it for September. Next week, we start on one for October. So, the September affirmation for Unity by the Sea. Unity by the Sea is enriched by our love of all living things. And then for ourselves, I am enriched by my love of all living things. And so it is. And now, I have asked Bonnie if she will please read our daily word today. And she said she would.
This is by divine inspiration, I'm sure, because the word is balance, something I struggle with. Work, play, rest, and prayer are balanced in my life today. Creating a new dimension of consciousness, one that Jesus called the kingdom of heaven, is my purpose as I move through this day. Achieving that goal requires time and commitment, and I do what is mine to do with gratitude and appreciation. However, rest, relaxation, and prayer is also vital to my spiritual well-being. My mortal mind tends to overemphasize negative, fear-based challenges at the expense of the light and love that really fill even my gloomiest days. Balance occurs when I surrender my mortal mind to the infinite mind, the infinite and divine mind of spirit within. There, I will find my perfect balanced day in rewarding and surprising ways, whether I am at work, at rest, in relaxation, or prayer. And from Ecclesiastic 3:10, verse 11, I have seen the busyness that God has given to everyone to be busy with. He has made everything
suitable for its time. And for anybody that doesn't happen to be aware of the fact, Bonnie is Reverend Georgie's sister. So, in case there's anybody that didn't know that, now you do.
Thank you, I did not know.
Oh, wow, okay. Randy, you're up for music, it says here. Does that work for you?
That's what I'm here for.
We're so glad.
I guess,
Don't ask him to do anything else.
I guess that's a jubilant yes.
Well, one of the ways, real effective ways for me to achieve balance is to do nothing. To do nothing.
Gee, if I had time, I'd like to try that.
Just to be.
Not about being, being, but doing.
He's better than me.
Doing's overrated. In the frantic game of choosing, in fear of loss and losing, with temptation ever calling, is there a method so enthralling that will lead me quite rightly and right for all eternity? In the list of names and places, is there one among all the faces? Someone who knows better where I should send my letter? And will information, more information, deliver me from my isolation? Stop all your confusion, fear and illusion. Go alone to sanctuary, hear answer to your mystery. Do nothing till you hear, nothing till you hear, nothing till you hear from me. In the spaces between thoughts' places, and in the hum of creation's workshop, beyond your mind in eternity's blind and offer of peace unknown before. So stop all your confusion, all your fear and illusion. Go alone to sanctuary and hear answer to your mystery. And do nothing till you hear, nothing till you hear, nothing till you hear from me.
And now I get to hand over everything to Reverend Georgie. Your turn.
Thank you, Judy. And thank you, Randy. I once had a counselor who must have heard that song because she said, if you don't know what to do, do nothing until you hear. Very good, very good. Well, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
It's good to be back with you guys again. It seems like just a couple of weeks ago I was here, and indeed, it was a couple of weeks ago. I am feeling better than I did then, for sure. So a couple of weeks ago, even though it wasn't the title, I talked a lot about limiting beliefs. So I'm just going to go back and kind of do a little quick review of how I even got to that subject for you and what I talked about 2 weeks ago. I know Sally wasn't here then, and others may not have been here at that time either. And so just so you kind of catch up with me, because this says part 2, and that's kind of what it is. I have to back up just a little bit and remind us all about our beloved Lorena. The last 4 months of her life, there was a group of us that was called the Power of 8 that met with her every Sunday afternoon, did energy work, did prayer work, and so forth. She had formed an intention, and the first line of that intention, and that was what we would all hold in our consciousness for her, which we did. And the first line of that intention was, I let go and release all limiting beliefs. And so a few days after she passed, I woke up with the question buzzing in my head, what's a limiting belief? You know, and so I thought, well, okay, and I just started playing with it. And so that's what I talked about 2 weeks ago, and that's what I'm going to talk about a little bit today. Now, we all have our own limiting beliefs, you know, but these that I spoke about then and what I'm going to speak about today seem to me kind of universal, like one size fits all. We all have these particular limiting beliefs. And what I talked about 2 weeks ago was the first one that popped into my mind was judgment. That seems to be lock-stitched into our DNA. I suspect we pick some of it up when we are in the womb, listening to our mother's self-talk or our mother's talk out loud, or our fathers. We pick up that idea of judging. And so how do we back ourselves off of that precipice where we are constantly ready to jump on judgment about whomsoever is doing in their life? And I suggested that something we can train ourselves to do, and it is a training, and it does take time, is to choose instead a preference. Instead of judging somebody for doing whatever they're doing or whoever they're doing, to say, you know, I would prefer the behavior of that person be a little different than that. I would. That's my preference in this situation. And it's going to take quite a time of training ourselves to get to that point where we don't just automatically go to judgment, and it'll be a period of time where you kind of have to back yourself up and say, well wait a minute now. I don't need to judge that person. What's my preference in this situation? So it just shifts consciousness a little bit, but it's like a big ocean liner. It takes a while to turn, okay, and it's going to take a little while to turn that around as well, to get into that place of preference. So the other thing I talked about was forgiveness or unforgiveness, and as an example of that, to kind of illustrate it, which I think is probably the best little story in the world, is called The Littlest Soul by Neil Donald Walsh. Now, is there anybody who doesn't know that story at all? Because I will re-encapsulate a little bit, Littlest Soul. You don't know it at all? Okay, let me just give you a real brief storyline on that so that you understand where I'm going with that. This littlest soul was up in heaven, and he was ready to return to earth in another life, and so he decided what he wanted to work on, and he decided he wanted to work on forgiveness. So he went to God and he said, God, I'm ready to go back in a body in another life, but what I'm going to work on is I'm going to work on forgiveness. And God said, well, you know, I don't know that you really want to do that, because there's nothing to forgive. Well, no, that's what I want to do. So they got into a dialogue, God and this littlest soul, and pretty soon that got out into the kingdom there, and all the other souls kind of started coming forward because they wanted to know what this dialogue was about and they wanted to listen to it. And so they just kept it up back and forth a little bit, and then there was a soul in the background there that raised his hand, and so the littlest soul said, "Did you want to say something?" And he said, "Yeah, I'll help you. I'll go to earth with you, and I will do something pretty horrible, and you can forgive me. And so you can practice this business of forgiveness." And the littlest soul said, "Oh my gosh, you would do that for me? You would really do that for me?" And the other soul said, "Yeah, I would do that for you, but would you do something for me?" And the littlest soul said, "Anything, anything at all. What can I do for you?" And he said, "Well, in the very moment that I smite you and I hurt you at the depth of your being, will you please remember who I am? Because you see, I may have forgotten." And I think that just sums things up. If we could begin to think about these areas in our lives that we don't want to forgive or we don't want to let go of, we don't think we can, what they did to me, if we can just remember that littlest soul, it just kind of shifts things for us quite a bit. So today I want to cover fear of lack and the golden calf. And the golden calf, of course, is the belief in another power. And then there's one other. I think I mentioned to you 2 weeks ago, I had one kind of niggling at the back of my head, and so it niggled its way forward, and I actually think that it is probably the core or the cause of all the rest of these limiting beliefs that we pack on ourselves, and I'll talk about that as well. So fear of lack. I don't think there's a person that walks this face of this earth that at some time or another doesn't become fearful that they don't have enough of whatever it is that they think that they need enough of. I've got a lot of prosperity books, as you might guess. A minister seems to collect those things, and then of course they retire, which is what I did 4 years ago, and I give them away as fast as I can. So Unity of Salem, Unity in Sonora, they all had a lot of them, but I kept some. There were some that just I couldn't quite part with, you know. And one of them is a prosperity book, or an abundance book, whatever we want to call it, called The Soul of Money by Lynn Twist. And this one, I think out of all of them, is the best one I've ever read. And I've used it a lot at Unity of Salem over the years. So I want to read just a little bit of this to you. So this chapter 3 says, scarcity, the great lie. It's got a quote by a fellow by the name of Paul Zater. There is a natural law of abundance which pervades the entire universe, but it will not flow through a doorway of belief in lack and limitation. Good quote, good quote. So she says, I have been engaged for all these years in the lives and the circumstances of people, many of whom live in crushing conditions, where the lack of food, water, shelter, freedom, or opportunity drives every move and every conversation. Others, by every measure, have bounty way beyond their needs. More money, more food, more cars, more clothes, more education, more services, more freedom and more opportunity, more of everything. And yet, surprisingly, in that world of overabundance too, the conversation is dominated by what they don't have and what they want to get. No matter who we are or what our circumstances, we swim in conversations about what there isn't enough of. And then she goes on to say, I see it in myself. For me, as for many of us, our first waking thought of the day is, I didn't get enough sleep. The next one is, I don't have enough time. Whether true or not, that thought of not enough occurs to us automatically before we even think to question or examine it. Good kind of a poke in our memory too, before we get into that place. Okay, so then she moves from that scarcity, that idea of scarcity, and brings in the theory of sufficiency. Very important concept. So I, like all the rest of us, have had days when the fear has hit me about, oh my God, I don't have this, or I don't have that, or what happened to this, or whatever it was. And I have taught myself, and so I offer it to you as well, to stop myself. That's the first thing we have to do. When our head starts going like that, our thought starts going like that, we have to hold up a stop sign. Stop! Stop! Do you really want to go there, Georgie? It's quicksand. Do you really want to do that? And so finally I said, no, I don't really want to do that. So then I have to take a breath, and I take a step back, just a little bit, and I say to myself, in this now moment, I have a roof over my head, I have clothes on my body, and I have food on my table. In this now moment, in this very day. And because we only have this now moment in our lives, I can take a breath and let go of that grip of fear that will grab a hold of us if we don't stop it. Because if we don't stop it, that part of us will start throwing another log on the fire until we got a bonfire going, and we've convinced ourselves that there's no hope at all. Okay, so let me share what she says about sufficiency. Because when I read this, I started using that word sufficiency, and I believe that whole thing I just went through about enough food on the table and roof over my head and so forth came forth from that idea of sufficiency. In the moment, in the now moment, I have sufficiency. Okay? And I think probably out of of course, all of the prosperity books and all of the prosperity teachings that I've done over the years have all contributed to bring me into a place of pretty much at peace with it. You know, my needs seem to be met just fine. But I think this book probably was the cherry on the cake. Okay? So this is what she said. She's got sufficiency, the surprising truth. And her quote is, when you let go of trying to get more of what you don't really need, it frees up oceans of energy to make a difference with what you have. When you make a difference with what you have, it expands. It does. I mean, that's Jesus' teachings totally. So she says it has been nearly 10 years since my first encounter with the indigenous Akwar people of Ecuador, but I can still remember the experience of meeting them and being among them for the first time. A completely different kind of experience from my first encounter with hunger and poverty in India. In the rainforest with the Akwar, I saw people who were naturally prosperous. They hadn't won some competitive economic game of prosperity. They were not prosperous at anyone's expense. They hadn't beaten anyone at anything. They were prosperous in the way they were with themselves and with one another, living consistent with the true laws, the unchanging laws of the natural world, which ultimately govern all of us. Theirs was a culture with no money in it. Probably hard for us to imagine a little bit, isn't it? It was something they encountered primarily, this culture of money, it was something they encountered primarily when they ventured out of the forest. It was for them an odd, adjunct thing that was not part of their everyday life or even their consciousness. With no money, no ownership, no accumulation of goods, and none of the conveniences of our Western lifestyle. Still, there was no suggestion of scarcity, no lack, and no fear that there wouldn't be enough of what they needed. There was no chase for more, and no resignation or belief that they were living lives of less than. They lived and still do in the experience and expression of enough, or what I call sufficiency. Instead of seeking more, they treasure and steward thoughtfully what is already there. In fact, their efforts today are devoted to protecting what is there, the rainforest, as a resource for all of us. For the Aquar, wealth means being present to the fullness and the richness of the moment and sharing that with one another. It is possible for those of us who live in money cultures to find the same equanimity and freedom in our own environment and with money as well. So when that fear of lack sneaks up on you, or grabs a hold of your throat or your gut or whatever it might be, maybe when you look at your bank balance, take a moment, breathe, and remind yourself, in this now moment, I have sufficiency. I have sufficiency. You know, I was remembering as I was preparing this back in 2008, 2009, when we had that horrible recession, and so all the foreclosures and everything was just going so crazy. We had a Thursday meditation at Unity of Salem for many, many years, and always people would bring their brown bag lunch, and we'd sit around and we'd talk and have lunch. And sure enough, of course, at that time, this subject of the recession and everything that was happening to people came up. And I will never forget one lady by the name of Linda, and she said, you know, I see all this happening, and I see how scared people are, but if you don't have a 401k, and you don't have all those stocks and bonds, there's really nothing to be afraid of. And you know, I looked at her and I thought, oh my God, yeah, she wasn't afraid of anything. Because there was nothing to be afraid of in her life. Okay, let's move on to the limiting belief in a power other than the one that we affirm. Now, most Unity churches, every single Sunday, they will say, there is but one power and one presence in my life and in the universe, God the good, omnipotent. Okay? And we believe that when we say that. I know we do. I certainly do. You know, so I know Judy gave me the most quizzical look 2 weeks ago when I said the belief in the golden calf. She really did, and I thought, oh, okay, good enough. Well, let's share that story of the golden calf. Now, I know you all know it well, and I'm sure that you spend a lot of time in the Old Testament during the week. It's interesting in Unity churches, we barely touch the Old Testament. We spend all of our time in the New Testament. But you know, there's a richness to the Old Testament, great richness. You'll find this story if anybody's interested. If you do, if you can pry the pages loose in your Old Testament, this is in the book of Exodus, and it is part of the story of when God sent Moses to bring forth his children from Egypt. They had gone down there several centuries before, and they were welcome several centuries before, but I think they overstayed their welcome. They also produced a lot of more Israelites, and so the Egyptians got a little nervous with all of those Israelites down there, and they decided, well, we got them all, let's make slaves of them, and they're going to do everything that we tell them to, and so we'll keep control here. So they lived a life for quite a number of centuries of being enslaved, and it wasn't very much fun, and so God decided to send Moses and rescue these people. So Moses did. The whole story, the whole book of Exodus is about this story, so you can get all those details down a little bit tighter if you're interested. So he's got them out of Egypt. Now, and there's thousands and thousands and thousands of people here, friends, okay, and he's got them in the desert. He's got him settled down just a little bit, and then he had to go up the mountain to collect the 10 Commandments and the other rules that they had to live by. And so this is where we pick it up. When the people saw that Moses delayed to come down from the mountain Now, that's no easy job to sit up there on that mountain and chip out on those stone tablets those 10 commandments. It's going to take some time, okay? Well, they're getting antsy down here, okay? The people gathered around Aaron. Now, Aaron was Moses' brother, and said to him, "Come, make gods for us, who shall go before us. As for this Moses, this man that brought us up out of the land of Egypt, we do not know what has become of him." And Aaron said to them, "Okay, take off your gold rings that are on your ears and the gold rings that are on the ears of your wives and your sons and your daughters, and bring them to me." So all the people took off all the gold rings from their ears, and they brought them to Aaron. He took the gold from them, formed it into a mold, and cast an image of a calf. And they said, "Ah, these are your gods, O Israel, who brought you up out of the land of Egypt." And when Aaron saw this, he built an altar before it, and Aaron made a proclamation and said, "Tomorrow shall be a festival to the Lord." And they rose early the next day, and they offered burnt offerings, and they brought sacrifices of well-being, and the people sat down to eat and drink and have a party. Well, now Moses is busy up there, okay? He has no idea what's happening down here. But God knows. God knows. So God went to Moses and said this. The Lord said to Moses, "Go down at once. Your people. Now suddenly they're not God's people anymore. Did you notice that? They now belong to Moses. Okay? Your people, Moses, whom you brought up out of the land of Egypt, have acted perversely. They have been quick to turn aside from the way that I commanded them. They have cast for themselves an image of the calf and have worshipped it and sacrificed to it." Now, God was really angry at that particular point in time, and it took Moses a little while to calm God down so that he didn't stomp out these people that Moses had gone to all this trouble. So, what golden calf beliefs do we give power to? Certainly anything that we are afraid that we might lose. Money, careers, relationships, our house, our car, our health. All those things that are truly outside of who we are in truth. They truly are. They're not our essence. They're all those other things. Another thing that crossed my mind that we give power to, and I don't know, this is not much a part of my life now, and maybe it's because I hang out in New Thought and Unity or Religious Science and people of like mind, but superstitions, okay? When I grew up, oh my God, we had so many superstitions, so many rules, you know. Don't ever let the black cat walk in front of you, and don't walk under that ladder. This is really bad luck. And here's one, and I'm not sure anybody else that's here, except for my sister Bonnie, has this one. It's very bad luck to have two trees in your house in the same year. I can see some people are not too sure about that. But if you put up a tree, say December the 1st for Christmas, then you have got to take it down by December 31st. Otherwise, you're going into another year, and you're going to have that tree up, and you're going to be putting another tree up, and that is really bad luck. You know? And so for years, that was the golden calf that ruled our lives as far as the blooming Christmas tree was concerned.
Mother made it up in the week clean.
Did Mom make that up? Really? It could be, Bonnie, but it ruled our lives for quite a number of years, so. Oh, gosh. Oh gosh. Okay, where was I? Okay. Here's another superstition that I just found interesting not too long ago. I was reading some historical novels, is what they are, by Christine McMorris. And this one was called The Bridge of Scarlet Leaves. And it began 2 days before Pearl Harbor and went all the way through World War II. And the main family here is a Japanese family. Now we know that FDR, very soon after the war was declared, took all the Japanese in the United States and put them in internment camps. A lot of them in California. I think there were some others that were other places as well. Even if you only had 1/16 Japanese, you were put into those camps. So our protagonist, a young man by the name of Lane, his father was immediately arrested and sent off someplace because he was a banker, and so there was the mother and the little girl, the sister, and Lane was in his early 20s, and so they put them in the camp. Now he also had just gotten married before Pearl Harbor to just an American girl, and she found her way to him too. But they were in there for about a year when Lane got the opportunity to join the army as a Japanese interpreter. And so, of course, the family wasn't very keen to have him leave, but he wanted to do what he could. So his mother took a big, long piece of white material, and she went to every woman in the camp, and there were thousands in these camps, okay? And she had each woman put a stitch in the material, just a little stitch, and it's called the belt of 1,000 stitches. And she brought it to Lane, her son, and she said, here's the belt of 1,000 stitches. You wear it every single day, and you will be kept safe. And he did. The whole time that he was in the army, he wore that belt of 1,000 stitches. Now that, most assuredly, is a golden calf belief. Belief in another power. Jesus was always telling us, I think that our golden calf beliefs are always attached to fear. Always attached to fear. Okay, certainly we were the Israelites, and I think it is for us as well. And Jesus was always telling us, fear not, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. Fear not. Fear not, little flock. That's in there 150 times in Scripture. 150 times. Last week I went to Unity of Salem, and Reverend Patty talked about the golden key. Emmett Fox's golden key, which is basically get your mind and your eyes off the problem and put it on God. Okay. So I was driving home, and I was kind of thinking about what I was going to talk about today, and I thought, oh, don't golden calf it, golden key it. So just remember that, keep that in mind. Okay, so I told you I thought there was one more limiting belief. And I believe that I would call this particular belief cause. It's a cause. All the others that I've talked about, all the individual ones that we have that I didn't talk about, because they're your own and you know what they are effects. Here's the one that I think is cause. I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. We teach in New Thought that we are born in original blessing. However, there is a strong belief with our brothers and sisters in other religious organizations, other churches, that we're born of original sin. Now, I don't believe that, and I trust that you do not believe that either. However, we are part of collective consciousness, the collective consciousness, and that is a core belief in the collective consciousness, and it has permeated the consciousness of humankind, and it supports that belief in there that comes up in us every now and again, or that thought, I'm not good enough, or I'm just not enough. Okay? A month or so ago, I was telling you that I'm really fond of the summer series, AGT, America's Got Talent. And it's just finished its time for the year with the finals. There was a woman Her name was Christine. And she made it to the semifinals, okay? And when you make it to the semifinals, then you create, or they create, or somebody, somehow we could see it, your story, okay? And it tells us all about each one of the contestants individually. And so Christine's story was that she was a very heavy lady, and she had been heavy all of her life. She had a voice that was just incredible. She sang beautifully, but all of her life, because she had been heavy as a child, she had been teased as a child, she had been shunned as a child, and later in life she had been turned down for various positions because she was too fat. She was too heavy, okay? So Christine was left with a very strong belief in not being good enough. So it must have taken a humongous courage and a lot of support and conviction from other people to encourage her to even apply to be on America's Got Talent. But she was accepted as one of the contestants. And she probably sang 3 or 4 times because she did make it to the semifinals. She didn't make it to the finals, but she made it to the semifinals. And each time she sang, with the accolades and the support and the love pouring forth from the judges and from the people in the audience, her confidence gradually grew more and more and more. And in her video, as she was telling her story, there were 3 mirrors, standing mirrors, and as she'd tell a part of the story, like the first time she ever sang for everybody, and you'd see in the mirror the judge that said to her, "Oh my God, you are so wonderful." You know, and then she'd tell a little bit more of the story, and then the other mirror, another judge would say something like that. And then the third one, another judge would say something like that. And each time it built her so she could drop layers off of that idea that she was not good enough, just the way she was. And so she made it to the semifinalists, not to the finalists. But what she went through was a whole process of healing in front of us as she shifted that consciousness that there was something about her that was not good enough, because she was good enough just the way she was. And so are you, and so am I, just the way we are, warts and all, okay? We are good enough. So here's your homework. Here's your homework. I always love to give you homework, and some of you actually do it. And you always have to come up to me when I come back and tell me if you did it or not. This is what I want you to do until I see you again in October, which is only 3 weeks away, by the way. Every single day, I want you to take time, at least 5 minutes, and go to a mirror and look at yourself in the mirror and look into your eyes, okay? And then say to yourself, "I love you." So John, you'll say, "I love you, John. You are good enough just the way you are." And that's what you're going to do, okay? Every single solitary day. That's your homework. And then when I come back, the 3rd Sunday of October, you're going to have to come up to me and tell me if you've done it. And by the way, when you say that, you say it from your heart. You say it like you mean it. You say it like it's Jesus Christ himself standing over your shoulder and saying it for you. You are good enough. I love you. And then when you come up and tell me whether or not you've done that, and it's up to you, you know, I want you to tell me how it felt in the beginning and then how it felt towards the end of the time that you were saying that to yourself. And I'm going to bet that you will have the same kind of transformation that Christine had as she went through those 3 or 4 performances. Every single time she received those accolades, she felt better and better and better about herself. Okay, let's take this into meditation. Randy's going to play us a little music on the back, in the background there. If you're comfortable, close your eyes. And if you're comfortable, put your feet flat on the floor and sit up kind of straight with your back against the pew. That's just so your physical energy doesn't have any crisscrosses, so that it can just flow through you. Oh, sweet Spirit, we are so perfect. We are so good enough. The divine essence that lives us and breathes us is perfect. We are created in the image and after the likeness of God. How can we be anything else but good enough? And yet, we come to this beautiful earth of ours for another lifetime, a lifetime of lessons, a lifetime of learning, a lifetime of relationships. And some place along the way, we pick up this idea that we're not good enough, and then that just compounds things and becomes the cause for all of these other limiting beliefs, where we think we have to judge one another, maybe so we don't judge ourselves. We think that we can't forgive someone because we think that someone did something to us. How about the idea that someone did something for us, like the littlest soul, so we can learn, so we can heal things that we have need of healing. And those beliefs in lack, oh my gosh, dear God, you have provided such an abundant universe for us. There is abundance every place we look. Why would there not be abundance in our lives as well? But if we have a door with a belief in lack and limitation, that abundance cannot come through that door. And then we start putting golden calves in our lives and giving our power to those things that really do not have any power, because in truth, dear God, there is one power and one presence in the universe and in my life. God, the good, omnipotent. And so instead of golden calf it, whatever it is, we will golden key it. And we will remind ourselves every single day, I love myself. I am good enough. And so it is. Amen. And now when you are ready, and you can feel that you are in your body, you may open your eyes. Okay, this is our time to have the opportunity to give of our tithes and our offerings, and remembering that idea of sufficiency always in our lives. If you will just take your gift in your hands and join me in the offering blessing. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God.
Well, the good news is quiet. The good news is still. The good news is quiet. In spite of your will. The good news is quiet. The good news is still. It's all so clear that the good news is here. Get on your knees. Try real hard to please. Stand high on a chair, throwing your arms in the air. Asleep or at prayer. The good news is right there. Get an A on your test. Think you're better than the best. Listening to the radio. Oh, then you know that you know that you know. You can shake with fear. But the good news is right here. The sun doesn't have to shine and the wind doesn't have to blow. It doesn't matter at all if you're in the front row. You can win it all. Stand taller than tall. It's not something you read, and it's not a sight to see. You can close your eyes. Believe only lie. Cover your ears, trying so hard not to hear. But you don't have a choice. It's in the still small voice. The good news is quiet. The good news is still. Good news is quiet. In spite of your will. Good news is quiet. The good news is still. And it's all so clear that the good news is here.
Back to the prayer again for just a moment. We say, thank you, God. There is sufficiency. This is enough. You are a blessing in countless ways. And sometimes I have my eyes closed and I don't see that. So in this now moment, I open my eyes and I say, thank you, God. As we bless these financial gifts that go forth to support this spiritual family, this spiritual organization, to carry the good news forth into the world. So we bless the gifts and we bless the givers. Thank you, Spirit.
Good morning. Please join me in reading our statement of peace in the bulletin. Unity stands for peace in the presence of conflict, for love in the presence of hatred, for forgiveness in the presence of injury. Unity honors the many names for God, the many paths to God, the many ways to worship God, for there is only one power and presence of God, and that God loves each one of us equally. It is therefore the position of unity to urge all nations, their leaders, and their people to turn to God by whatever the name for guidance during these challenging times, and to pursue peace, not war. For this is what honors the God of all our faith traditions. Unity stands for peace in our lifetime. The wolf shall dwell with the lamb, and the leopard shall lie down with the kid, and the calf and the lion and the fatling together, and a little child shall lead them. And they shall not hurt or destroy in all my holy mountain, for the earth shall be full of the knowledge of the Lord. I will not be the part of the killing of any child, no matter how lofty the reason. Not my neighbor's child, not my child, not my enemy's child. Not by bomb, not by bullet, not by looking the other way. I will be the power that is peace.
And shall we circle up now, please?
Going now?
And I invite you, when you time, if you have anything that you would like to say to us, you feel you want to be you don't have to speak it if you don't want to. Just say it as long as it is explained.
The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is. And all